and look at one of my tabs, which will be Facebook, and will there be a post that says, we're talking today about how and why website tracking. So there's no post in the group. However, we're in it. So we're in it to win it, and we're here, and we have talked about this before, not only on Tuesday, but probably a year or two ago, and we thought it was due time that we talked about how and why websites track you. I'm Pip.
And I'm Greg.
And together, we make marketing a group effort.
The,
And
dyna- the
did you like that,
dynamic
Greg?
OG duo back
Yeah,
at it
we are.
again.
And so let's dive right in, because we know that people might want to know about tracking and stuff. I think the first thing that really comes up is, well, when we were talking, it was, everybody knows they're listening now. I mean, sometimes even when you think, the next day you'll see
It,
an ad.
it's getting really creepy.
Yeah, it's creepier. I mean, but then you have to realize that uh MasterCard and Visa are all selling your info, and I
Hmm.
bet they can sell it pretty quick. Like, I bet you
I
it's
mean,
like,
it's not just them. Anybody we're giving info to is using it to their advantage in some way.
mhm.
It's just that some places are more brazen about using it to do whatever.
Facebook. I
Yeah.
mean, Google. I mean, LinkedIn. Hello. We have who is joining us? Greg, can you see? We will see. We were.
I see a Facebook user saying hi, guys.
Hi guys. Yeah.
I'm gonna take a guess. Maybe it's Glenna. I don't know.
Who? Yeah. Let us know who you are in the comments, because for some reason we don't get the comments in here unless I think you like one of our business pages, which is very strange. But if you're joining us from Facebook, we
Yeah,
can
I was
see
right.
it's
It was Glenna.
Lena.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I am working on my Skittles for overlays. I actually joined. I followed this guy, Alec, British bald guy, for video stuff. And anyway,
Hmm.
so we're in his program. So I got to meet him yesterday, and that was really cool. Anyway, that is not what we're talking about. We are talking about tracking. Oh, and Phelan's here joining us. That's lovely. Uh, and so, Greg, I mean,
Hmm.
you said it was getting creepy, right? It is, and we both work on websites and in marketing, which is all about sales and doing this stuff. So, I mean, how are you feeling about it all? And like, let's talk about why they're tracking us. It's purely for advertising in the end.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these companies, they're just trying to make more money, and your information is valuable, because if they give it to someone, then they can target you for the things that you're looking for, or what have you. So I mean, it is creepy. Like, I noticed a while ago that I'll just see things on my phone that I was talking to my wife about, and all of a sudden in my Google Now feed, or I'll go on Facebook or Google, and you'll start seeing things that you didn't search for, but just even talked about. And now I
Mm.
have like a Google Home. So Google Home, Alexa, like all of these
Oh yeah, they're
services
all
that
listening.
listen for your voice to ask questions.
Sorry.
They're
So,
they're all of these things are listening to us, right? So they can say it's a coincidence, but is it really a coincidence that you've talked about something, and all of a sudden you start getting mysterious ads and things related to the things that you were just talking
talking
about.
about, right? Well,
It's not
I
it's
mean,
not a coincidence.
it is not a coincidence, but I don't think it's, it's AI listening, and in the end, I think it will make services better. Like, I don't need certain advertisements. So if they can, so they've kind of democratized, um, you know, what we're interested in. Like, we can actually have, find a group that's interested in gardening, and actually, like, hundreds of thousands of people interested in it, right? We're not all watching the same TV shows anymore. We're not all, at 8 o'clock at night going to watch TV like what was happening when we were kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now we're picking when we want to watch shows, what we want to watch. And I think that changes, like, so I think advertising is going to be more like that too, right? They're going to,
Mm-hmm.
so it's better, and we can turn it on and turn it off, right? Have you ever logged into your Google settings, like when you're on Chrome, and gone in
I've
there?
I've gone into my Google account and looked through things that are connected and history of things and stuff like that. And I do periodically get rid of things or disconnect things and stuff like that. But to be quite honest, I really don't mind, because in a way it's very helpful.
Mm.
I mean, it's creepy, no doubt. But
It
I'm
is
more
creepy.
concerned over not the fact that I'm getting suggestions based on things that I might have talked about or searched, because those things tend to, like I said, be helpful at times. I'm more interested in the more sinister things
Mm,
that companies might be doing because they have this information. Like, if it's only to feed me, relevant things to what I'm interested in, or that kind of a thing, then I don't really have a problem with it. But if there's something else that they're using this for, without my knowledge, is more the scarier portion to this.
mm. Right, the behavior studies they don't tell you about. Things like
Or
that,
just
like,
like, so for instance, Google, if Google is, if I'm talking to my Google, or if I'm talking to my wife, and then all of a sudden we're getting ads, like the information that they are collecting, if they're
mm,
using it for more than just trying to feed us like some relevant advertising from advertisers, like if they're selling that information, or giving it to other organizations behind the scenes that we don't know about,
that we're
to
signing away,
collect
like, yeah.
all of this information, that's the stuff that you would be definitely more worried about, that
Mm.
information being wherever it is.
Hmm. So, and that leads us. So, there's two angles to this, right? There's the consumer angle of, like, what they're tracking, and then there's the websites that are doing the tracking. Like, Google's a website, Facebook is a website. Realistically, it's just a very interactive website, right?
Every website that you go to is tracking you in some way. It's just a case of what is set up, why it's set up, and what they're going to use it. Now, most of the time, the store down the street, the shop down the street that has a website and has tracking in place to track who you are, they're not collecting, you know, your name, your address, your sex, like
Mm,
all of that.
not
They
unless you
have
tell them.
tracking in, they have tracking in place that will be like, oh, who is this person that came to my
Mm,
site? Can we store information that they might have given us, so that the next time they come back to the site, we can preload their cart maybe with what they had in there, or things like that. And the data that they have on you is limited, because these tracking things are in place by Google or Facebook. So Google and Facebook have the real information,
that's
and
true.
the person who owns the site really just has it in place so that they can make the experience on the web better for
Uh,
you, or get better analytics about how their website's performing or converting, for how whatever it is that they have set up.
Yeah. So, I think okay. So, well, let's dive in because that kind of leads us into cookies and what websites are doing, which is
Hmm.
always interesting, right? So, um, cookies do a lot, and I mean, you being like, because you were a developer from many years back, right? And so that's where kind of cookies originated, right?
Hmm.
And so I guess we got to go over kind of what is a cookie. Um, and there's some new things. There's some terms I saw that I didn't even. I was like, "Ooh, that's a cool." When you read a term and it's cool, and you're
Yeah.
like, "That sounds." What was it called? It was something fingerprinting, but um,
Oh,
well,
right. You mentioned it on
yeah.
yesterday, and I was like, "What is
I was
that?"
like, "Yeah,
I
me
didn't
too,
even
me
know
too."
what the hell you were
Right?
referring to.
And so websites, so we all know that like California and the EU all have rules now,
Hmm.
and when we go to websites, we're seeing more of the like
The
accept our
consent.
privacy policy, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like because we're tracking you, and that's you definitely want to have tracking put on your website to improve your website, but in that you need a privacy policy. We notice a lot of people don't have them, like when we do our measure setups, which is just all setting up all the tracking.
Yeah.
That's huge. And I mean, it's pretty easy to find a privacy policy online, right, that you could use. Just
Yeah,
read
there's
through it.
generators for us. I wonder how many people now are just using ChatGPT to generate their
Ooh,
privacy policies and things like that. There used to be a lot of free sites like they'll give you, but a templated thing, fill in your name and
yeah.
basic things about your business, and then they just insert that into the into the text and spit it out, and then you can either grab that or pay us a small fee and we'll make it like a little bit
And
better
we'll
or give you a little bit extra or something.
will automatically update it for you. I mean, our
Yeah.
privacy policy does link to how to opt out of things. It does link to how to make complaints on Google, things like I believe. I'm gonna go check it after this, but and why we do that is because we're tracking, and how do we track? We track with cookies, and I tried to make a really awkward metaphor earlier about how like something to do with bakers and online, and that's what websites are doing because each cookie is different,
Hmm.
unique.
Yeah, so the basic idea of a cookie is that like it was a cookie referring to like a little crumb that was left on your computer, right? From
Hmm.
from the site that you visited. And all of
Oh, that's
these
nice.
little cookies were basically just files that were left on your computer that could be recalled if you go back to that computer or to
Yeah.
that website, and then that website could be like, okay, is there a cookie, like let me see the information in there, so it could pre-populate and restore any information to the site that that cookie pertained to, and make the experience of
Better.
being on that website better. Like forms would be maybe pre-filled because it has you maybe you gave your name and information, and so it made it easier, like you
Pictures
didn't
would
have to
show
enter it
up.
again,
Yeah.
kind of a thing. And shopping carts. Major thing for e-commerce sites was to store the information of the session that you had, and a lot of that stuff now, depending on whether or not you have an account with that customer or that store, they now store it in sessions, like directly on the server, and cookies, that information isn't so much in the cookie anymore, but that's the basics of what a cookie was for in the first place, was basically just to store a little bit of information about you and about what you were doing on the site, so that if you go back to the site, that you can
It's better. It's
have
easier.
some of that
Faster.
stuff filled in, and it's up there faster, and it makes your experience better. And because the cookie was stored on your computer, you could get rid of it. You could clear out your cache and things like that, so the information would be gone because it was a cookie that was stored on your own computer.
In your
The
cache?
Sorry.
Is that where it's stored in the cache?
Well, no, it's stored on your computer in a certain place where all cookies would be stored
It's like a
um,
cookie party
on you.
in a file.
It's a cookie party. I don't know the exact location, but you could actually go or like figure out where your cookies are stored on your computer and
Mhm.
just like delete all of the cookies that have been left there
Yeah,
by sites. But by doing that, then the next time you go to any of those sites that information, your experience might not be the
as good.
same because it doesn't have this history of who you are, what you might have done on the site, and things like that.
Yeah. Which is quite interesting, right? Because you want that fast. Like, I don't, we don't realize um, how fast things happen anymore, I don't think, because we're so used to it. But if images had to load every time, I mean, images are the bulk of a website sometimes, and they can be very cumbersome.
Hmm.
um and and slow, and so we really want to get faster. So with the cookie, the cookies leave, they go away after, I think um in Google Analytics you can set up an audience for tracking. So one of the things the cookie would do is allow you to track some information, and Phelan describes it as putting a like sticker on your back when you go into like a party. And anyway, um but it's 540 days, I think, is the max. And if you
Hmm.
look inside, when you're setting things up, I think 14 months is the max that it'll store information. Your website will store information about
Hmm. Hmm.
somebody's information, right? So but you can
Yeah,
do, okay, it's, oh, go on.
and I was just going to say, and for a cookie, the same things can apply, and they typically are set by whatever website is, introducing the cookie on your system. They could
Mhm.
set it to, expire after 30 days and just delete itself, kind of a thing, or stay for a longer period,
Mm.
depending on how they want to use their site and have that information available in case you did come back.
Right. And so cookies will help with so they store information, they allow you to track, right? So and then it's social media widgets, I guess they do something with that, and like they can tell your device. And if you look in Google Analytics now, there's cross device tracking too, and because they're narrowing and expanding, because they need to be able to not identify the users, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why we're moving into this cookieless future, which is not actually cookieless, really, because cookies still are gonna be like images, right?
Hmm.
Loading quickly and things like that. So,
Well, that's cache.
mm,
Cache and cookies are different.
yeah, but
So cache is like a browser or server based feature that will store the assets of a website,
mhm.
so that when you go to that website again, it loads faster. That doesn't have anything to do with data. That's really a speed enhancement for a website to load the files and images more quickly in your web browser. So it doesn't have to actually go to the server and request those assets. It just pulls those assets from your cache on your computer because you've visited the site before. The browser is like, okay, there's a version of this site already in your cache. Let's load it from there so that we don't have to query the server to pull the assets across the internet again and load them.
And when you clear your cache, you can choose to clear your browsing history and your website passwords, and so all these things that you could store, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's pretty interesting when you get down to it. I really do believe that going into security and things like this will be a future thing because of how tracking works and things like that.
Hmm.
So I do, well, I mean, so internet online security things, where because we're seeing a lot of change, rapid change, right?
Hmm.
Um, So yeah, it's pretty interesting. And so Greg, do you put privacy policies on people's sites? What do you think of the future of tracking?
I always suggest that my clients put privacy policies and terms and conditions and things like that, but I myself don't create it for them. It's just um, something
Recommendation?
that I make sure whatever it is that they're doing, that they have those things in place for their site. Like I strictly design and build sites and suggest, like I don't produce the content for clients.
Oh,
um,
I didn't know that. I thought sometimes you produced it.
I mean, if they ask me to, I will, but typically those types of things I'm like, yeah, what do you want to set your policies as, give them to
Right.
me.
Yeah, yeah, fair. Phelan saying hello. Look, we can see his face on YouTube. Isn't that interesting?
Wow.
I know. I wonder why the Facebook does
I
that.
know.
Anyway.
I know. For some reason, it's escaping me what cookies was being replaced with. Maybe Phelan can remind us if he remembers.
Oh yeah, that'd be
Because
helpful.
I haven't heard a lot about that kind of stuff in a while. It was really hot and heavy on,
It
cookies were
was.
going to go away. We're replacing it with, something else. I can't remember what it was, but I haven't been keeping up with that, and cookies haven't gone away. So as of
Right?
yet, yeah.
And yeah, I was wondering, I also think I butchered Phelan's story about, how it's like a sticker on your back. Like
Hmm.
I think it's like going to like a festival and maybe going to like a booth where you're playing a game, and when you get to the booth they put a sticker on you, and then you go to the next booth and they put a sticker on you, and then like by the time you leave you go covered in stickers.
You look like you got chicken pox or something.
Right. But I mean, okay, so the main question is, with website tracking, are you afraid of it or do you appreciate it? And I mean, I already know you're going to have to learn this about the cookies and what's happening in the future, because it's going to affect all of us, right? And we're going to be serving our clients
I'm not
with
afraid
this.
of cookies. No, I'm more worried about is my data, who has it, and what they're using it for outside of a cookie. Because like I said, a cookie is just stored on your computer, and it does have a bunch of information potentially about you, but it's more based on what what the site is storing, because I might have given it something, and when I come back to that site, it can recall that from the cookie that's on my computer. I'm more worried potentially about the information that Google or Facebook or any of these social sites that have um, code in place so that they can store the information about me being on the site, and what I'm doing, going back to them and
Mm,
in their system, right? That then can be used for marketing purposes or selling purposes, of like, we have this guy, he, went to this site. So, he's obviously into this. So, let's sell his information to, so and so, because that's what they're into, and they could, sell it to me or
mm,
market to me or use that information somehow to get in front of me for whatever it is.
mm. They grocery stores can tell when a woman's pregnant before they might know before she would know,
Hmm.
because of buying habits. So, which is really interesting. So all our habits are out there and they're being tracked. Now, it's going more from websites to real life in that, so I mean, I wouldn't just be concerned with, cookies tracking you. I mean, I might be more concerned with when I go to the grocery store. Are they, because and they do strange things, which is I find disingenuous, disingenuine, which is like they'll put something on sale right beside another product. And if
Hmm.
you actually do the calculation, The actual product beside is cheaper. Like if you calculate the roll, the how much tinfoil you're getting,
Hmm.
and you look at the two products, you're actually going to get more tinfoil from the one that costs a little bit more, you know.
Hmm.
And so if you add, so they don't break it down for people, because they want to make the most money possible. But I think it's behaviors like that that make tracking bad, because it's like, okay, yes, humans are shiny objects, we are, you know, we have a psychology and we all follow it, you know, we're more likely to do certain things like notice a red dot on a screen, right? Or, you know, or go for a sale item. And so this is
Hmm.
where it gets dicey, right? Like, because if you're going to be tracked, that's fine.
Hmm.
But I think it's about being honest about it. And you know, so hence the privacy policies, right? Let people choose like what they want. And because most of us would rather like ads for shoes over diapers because we don't have kids, right?
Hmm.
Like, so yeah.
I think when it comes down to it, I really don't have a problem with places I shop at having the history of what I bought, because while they know who I am, and like it's a way for them to run their business as well, right? And
Mhm.
provide either better services or try to get me to buy more. And this is what businesses are doing. Like they're in business to sell stuff, right? So
Right.
if they can, if they, it's smart for a business to know who their clients are, know what their shopping habits are, and provide sales or marketing to get me to come back and buy it again with them, right? So it's smart of them to do it. I don't begrudge anybody, any business, for trying to make the experience better and try to pull that customer in. This is what we do. We are marketers, right? Without
Mhm.
this information and history, we can't do our jobs as effective as we want.
Mhm.
So it's more a case of the selling of that information if they're doing it. So
Yeah. Oh
I
no, no.
I always try
How?
to work with or shop at more reputable places that I know,
Mhm.
and you don't fully know what they're doing with your information, but it's that more sinister side to your data that is always the concerning part.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean that's the thing, right? It's happening, and it's how we manage around it. The other thing is we know that laws come into place after, you know, crappy things happen. Generally, right? Our laws can't keep up. So,
Hmm.
and behind the scenes, I don't think that's what algorithm updates are about, right? On Google, sometimes even on Facebook, right? Because there are nefarious players out there. And so you have to, you know, look through the fog. But I think yeah, the tracking's happening. And I mean, there's people like me and you who, you know, I mean, when we're doing our work, we look at a website, we're like, okay, this is your most visited page. Are people doing what you want on the website? You know, and what are they doing if they're not? And how can we change it so they do? And this is it basically helps the economy, right? It helps businesses do their jobs, because it used to be you saw a paper ad in the paper or on
Hmm.
TV and you called or you whatever, right? Or you went down to the local area and shopped and bought that way. A
Hmm.
lot of the times now you go, well, it used to be you went from ad to store. Now it went from ad to website. Then now it's just website, right? And so how do you get, and then it's like Google or Facebook, then website, right? So that's kind of the way I think it goes. And maybe, you know, Instagram, Pinterest, any other websites, DuckDuckGo, and so referral, self-referring.
Hmm.
So, um, yeah, I think tracking's good in the end, is I guess what I have to
And
say.
just, I don't know if we mentioned it off the top when we started talking about these things that are in place to be able to grab your information. And I know we talked
Mm.
about accepting the websites are tracking you because of the EU and these types of things. But one of the things that is supposed to be in place for proper etiquette for all of these businesses is not only that you have to tell them that you are being tracked, but they have to have something in place where if you request your data to be um, removed,
Expunged.
then
Yeah.
they have to comply to that as well. So they always should have something in place where you can contact them and ask and request that the data
Yeah.
be removed
And that's
to be compliant. It's that
yeah.
is they're supposed to
Well, they
be able
defer
to
to
facilitate that request.
they'll defer to Google, a lot of them, right? It does become a Google problem or
Mm-hmm.
a Facebook problem in
Mm-hmm.
essence of, because they're the ones tracking, right? So or they're the ones processing the data and helping you track. So
Yeah.
it is pretty interesting, and I think in the future we'll appreciate. I actually, did you know how when you go to websites now, a lot of the time you have to click accept the tracking.
Mm-hmm.
That can be done in Tag Manager. And so I totally want to figure out how to do that. Or when I say I want to figure out, it's the royal I, which means I want Phelan to figure out um, how we can do that. It's a
Mm-hmm.
we, but I think that's really interesting that you can use a tool like Tag Manager to kind of help you control that, and people can say yes or no, and then they're not being tracked, right? And so that's pretty great. So we're gonna get we're you know I think with advertising comes tracking, and if you work in a transparent kind of way, it's going to be better, right? For all businesses and all people. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that that's why it's a continuous conversation, because this is our job. We try to be ethical about it. The ethical stance is to, follow guidelines, be respectful, and follow the guidelines that are coming out. So stay tuned, because we're all going to have to do this stuff. It might be boring, Greg. People might think this topic's boring. What do you think? I feel like I kind of like it. We've gone over. You're like, I gotta go, Pip. I gotta go too. Um,
Not by
but
much.
Not by much. It's true. We are coming here next week. And Greg, do you know what the topic is next week? We are hitting December, baby.
Yeah, we only have two more lives before the end of the year because we're off for the last 2 weeks for Christmas and New Year, which we don't ever do lives. So we only have two more. The next one is with Phelan and Rena, and they're going to be
Ooh.
talking about Facebook ads and what works.
Right? If you want us to talk about something, let us know and we will get it in there, on there. We also do socialize a bit more in the Facebook group. If you're not in there, Cyberpunk Geeks Marketing Mixer, come join us there, or stay where you are. Watch us on YouTube or on our Facebook business pages or LinkedIn or Twitter. Anyway, we're in spaces. But yeah, Greg, so next week sounds really good. I'm going to be there listening.
Mhm.
If you want to learn about advertising in Facebook, come to that live. And we will see you next week. Okay. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. I'll see you soon.